So today we have a very interesting topic about the significance of museum artifacts for today. Mm. So last week we had Peter Natividad and Rodrigo Enano from the Lopez Museum and Library who gave us some insights on museum management training. So this morning we will have Professor Boots Herrera who will talk about assessing the significance of museum artifacts. As we all know, museum artifacts are very important as part of the collection of the museum because it reflects the kind of knowledge, the passion, and collecting decisions of the museums. No, and it also reflects the kind of engagement that you have with the communities or the provenance or the collection of these artifacts, no, from different communities. Okay, so I would like to introduce our panelists for today. Professor Maria Victoria T. Herrera joined the Ateneo Art Gallery as its director and chief curator since May 2015. This was preceded by her post as director of the Cultural Center of the Philippines, or the CCP, Visual Arts and Museum Division, and Exhibition Department from January 2012 to April 2015. She was then seconded from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, where she was a regular faculty for more than 20 years at the Department of Art Studies. She also lectures for the BFA in Arts Management program in Ateneo de Manila University, where she teaches curatorship, collections management, and other museum-related courses. She was also part of the team of curatorial consultants for the opening of UP Baguio Museo Kordilyera in 2018. Until her posting at the CCP and AAG, she has engaged in freelance curatorial and museum-related projects. Among her research and exhibition projects are on Italian sculptor Francesco Riccardo Monti, painter and educator Florencio Concepcion, abstractionist Lee Aguinaldo, and conceptual artist Roberto Chabet. She co-authored the book The Life and Art of Lee Aguinaldo, which in 2011 that won the Alfonso Ongpin Best Book on Art Prize with the National Book Development Award in 2012. She is also a member of the International Council of Museum, the ICOM, and CMAM, or the International Committee of Modern Art Museums. So without further ado, let us welcome Professor Boots Herrera. Hi, Boots. All right, so we will proceed with the presentation.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Boots Herrera, Director and Chief Curator of the Ateneo Art Gallery. For this afternoon session, I will be focusing on the concept of assessing significance for museum collections as part of the museum management training organized by Museo Kordilyera of UP Baguio and the Commission on Higher Education. This presentation is informed by two main sources. The first is a lecture that was given by one of our resource speakers in a course on preventive conservation, reducing risks to collections, which was held in China, in Beijing in 2009. And second, significance assessment, which is an approach developed in Australia in 2001 towards achieving better decision-making about collections in areas such as preservation, physical and digital access, and funding support. Collections management is a vital aspect of museum work. It involves developing policies that affect decisions we make every day. These are decisions made at different levels of the organization, from top management, directors, board members to curators, education officers, exhibition designers, and even maintenance and security personnel. Questions such as what are the most frequently exhibited works is related to our notion of collections, is also part of collections management. First, let's go to some basic premises on what a collection is. This definition I thought of adopting because it's quite simple and concise. So basically, a collection is defined as a set of tangible and intangible materials, which include artworks, artifacts, specimens, archival documents, testimonies. So it's important to point out how the concept of intangible materials are incorporated in the notion of a collection. So these would include practices that are related, that are orally transmitted, interviews, for example, that are not yet documented. So to continue, these materials are have been assembled, classified, selected, and preserved in a safe setting by an individual or an institution, or first starting from an individual and handed over or donated to an institution. And of course, these materials are exhibited to the public, which may be the most obvious, visible part of our function as a museum. But of course, before getting there, collections management is an integral part of our task, our function in museum management. The question of what makes a collection is important, because not every assembly of objects would be considered as a collection. So what makes a collection? So to constitute a real collection, these sets of objects must form a relatively coherent and meaningful whole. So, and in the context of a museum, it is this meaningful and coherent and the ideas that create this collection also define the mission and the vision of a museum. It is good to remind ourselves that the act of collecting is a signifying practice. So decisions on what is acquired and not acquired, or on whether or not to accept a donation, impacts not only the character of collections, but also the accessibility of objects, information, or even the history written, which is made possible or made to be consumed by present and future generations. I'll be focusing, of course, on the Ateneo Art Gallery as a case study for the simple reason that it is. I'm quite familiar with the organization, with the history, and also it will not be necessary for me to get permissions to use images from the collection. But I hope you will be able to follow the principles, the ideas that I'll be presenting within your respective contexts. So as a university, we are a university art museum that's focused on Philippine post-war modern and contemporary art. So maybe you're asking, the first question you would ask is, why focus on that particular period or genre in Philippine art? Well, it has to do with how the museum was founded. Before 1960, well, we were founded in 1960. So we're celebrating our 60th anniversary this year. Unfortunately, we have to scale down with our celebration. So we're mostly doing it online. So before 1960, sometime in the late 1950s, Fernando Zobel an artist, a visual artist, an art patron, and an art writer, art historian, decided to take a permanent residency in Spain, but he would visit the Philippines every so often. So when he made that crucial decision, he decided to give his personal collection of Philippine art, which he started acquiring soon after he returned from his studies in the US, together with fine prints by international artists that he was already collecting even while he was in the States. So altogether, with this was approximately 300 works. And this donation led to the founding of the museum. So the core collection of the Ateneo Art Gallery are these works which Fernando Zobel donated. So these include works by young contemporary artists then, among them Arturo Luz, Jose Hoya, Vicente Manansala, Ang Kok, David Medalla, to name a few. If you want to get to know more about our programs and our collection, feel free to check our website. To give you a better sense of how we program our exhibitions, it is largely, of course, connected to, again, the collection, but at the same time, the spaces that we have within our reach. No, the space we actually moved to a new building in 2017, and with our new spaces here, where we're able to expand our programs, our programming. So we have collection-based exhibitions. For example, this is an image from the recently concluded exhibit, not visual. Yellow Ambiguities, which was curated by Father Jason B. and Carlo Mardawana. What you see are actually works on the wall by Fernando Zobel and H.R. Ocampo, all from the collection of the AAG. And the floor piece is a recreation of an installation by Roberto Chabet. And then the standing figure is a cut-out figure by Judy Sibayan. We also have a space that's focused on featuring drawings and prints. So we call it the Prints and Drawings Gallery. And the fact that we have this space named as such already implies a strong focus on these art forms. No? But this in this space, we feature not only the collection, but also invite artists to exhibit their own collection of drawings. So which has been quite an interesting outcome, because it gives a different perspective, an insider perspective to an artist's mode of working. I'll be going back to the Prints and Drawings Gallery later, because a more specific case study is focused on that segment of our collection. In the third floor, we have spaces that are delegated to exhibits that are thematic or period-based. It can be a retrospective. It could be featuring a contemporary artist. So this, for example, was the inaugural exhibition, the 70s, which was curated by Bingo Bunoan, focusing on ephemeral art practices in the 1970s. So many of these works are actually recreations. You have here a work by Yola Laudico Johnson, archival materials related to the practice of Judy Sibayan, and then those are recreated works from a 1960s recreation of a work by Roberto Chabet. And then the recently concluded exhibit, which was cut short by the lockdown, is an exhibit curated by Angel Velasco Shaw, featuring 31 artists who work with media-based, or rather photography-based practices. So that's not visual noise. And then the Ateneo Art Awards has been an annual program for more than 15 years. We were supposed to have our 17th edition of the awards this year, but again, we decided to postpone that for now. The last photograph is an image of the 10th anniversary exhibition, which was held in the old space of Ateneo Art Gallery. So this gives you a better picture of how we design our programming. But I want to go back to this image, which is the installation shot of a recently concluded exhibit, Printed, selections from the AAG print collection, which was curated by Pandy Aviado, a printmaker who you will again hear his name later. So these are all from the collection from our permanent collection. So these featured local and foreign artists. I want to point to this particular vitrine because inside what you see are actually not prints, but these are lithography stones. So these are the templates, the surfaces that create the prints. No? So we do have, as part of the print collection, we do have print paraphernalia or tools or materials that are used to create edition prints, fine prints. We will be going back to that concept again with a case study later. But then going back to looking at collections as a whole, one relevant question would be, how do we value our objects in our collection? Do we look at them as having equal value? So again, these are just some highlights from our collection. A painting by Fernando Sobel done in the early 1950s, Carosa. This is a recent work, a recent acquisition. A work, these are two light boxes created by an artist named Dominic from Barcelona. It was part of an exhibition that he brought over here. So it was a traveling exhibition, but he made a work specific to the Philippines. And the title is Welcome to Madrid, Welcome to Barcelona. And we thought it would be a good addition to our collection because it relates to a part of our history, but in a very contemporary mode or form. This is a work by, the sculpture is a work by Renato Rocha. It was a donation by one of our benefactors, an alumnus of Ateneo, who has been also gifting the university with his collection. And then another recent acquisition, this is by MMU, a photography collage, which was included in the Yellow Ambiguities exhibition, and she generously gifted this to us. So it's a recent addition. And then there is also, we also have a collection of contemporary ceramics, which again was a donation, but was part of a bigger collection where we were asked to choose from. And I thought it would be a good counterpoint to a collection of pre-colonial ceramics that Ateneo has, the Chowki collection, which was donated to the university years ago, and which Ateneo Art Gallery is the custodian. So these are connections. I'm just pointing out some connections. No? But if you look at this, let's say, 5 works, would you consider them as having equal value? Of course, not. No, but the question is relevant because it this can affect our acquisition program, our conservation program, and risk management assessment, our disaster response plan, and even insurance valuation. So, but this is not really the focus of this module. But I just want to share with you how this question can impact the basic functions of our what we do in the museum. Now, the Ateneo Art Gallery collection, if we are to look at the statistics, the profile, the distribution of our collection in terms of object type, it would appear like this. So from the 300 works that were donated by Fernando Zobel, and in the course of 6 decades, our collection has expanded to 1,852. Again, mostly donations. These are all donated works, gifts from artists, art collectors, some of them former students or graduates of Ateneo, and some are friends of artists. Now, again, we go back to that question: do we give equal value to each object? And if we do, the value of each object in the Ateneo Art Gallery collection would be simply 0.054, or that's 100 divided by the total number of objects. But of course, this is not the reality. No? So if this is not the reality, what then? Some objects are more meaningful than others. We identify more important works than others. You may not have this in writing, but if you analyze how you develop your programs, it can reveal some realities on how you value one object more than the other. So, but this is and this is normal. I mean, you can't give equal treatment to everyone, to everything that you have, no. But what is important is we understand why we create these values or these meanings. Why do we bestow different meanings to each object? So understanding that will help us also better manage our collection. So the idea of which groups are more meaningful than others is a good question. So in some cases, museums would create or identify meaningful groups, which in very simple terms is classified as extremely important, very important, important, and unimportant. You might be wondering why are there unimportant objects in a museum collection? This happens especially for museums that has had a long history. You have to remember that the way we value objects are bound by our context, our own history, our own upbringing, and an object that may be meaningful to the generation of our parents may not be meaningful to us. And in the same way, in museum collections, it can happen. But it doesn't mean that unimportant objects will remain invisible. There are ways by which you can create or give give significance, give meaning to these objects, which will be relevant to the current generation, to yourself and to your colleagues and to your community, your public. These are just examples of how different countries have adopted the concept of values and creating scales. No, so in the Netherlands, for example, between 1991 until the turn of the century, these images are all from different Dutch museums in the Netherlands. If you're probably some of them are probably familiar. Topmost is Rembrandt's The Night Watch, which is a huge painting in the Rijksmuseum, and it is one of their national treasures. The second photograph are bronze pieces from Indonesia, I believe, which was a former colony. And the third is a rack, showing a few artworks in storage. And at the bottom, you have these are cannonballs. No? So obviously, these objects won't have are not given the same value. So how did the Netherlands, the Dutch government, or community of cultural managers go about this assessment? So in order to bring management and conservation of Dutch collections to a level that would be efficient, no? They created categories A, B, C, D, which is basically a sliding scale of importance to the institution, to each institution, and each institution came up with a categorization that would apply to different collections. So it is a categorization that's adopted across different institutions with specific criteria. So the criteria, of course, will depend on the community. In this case, what is most important to the Dutch, because obviously for Indonesians, probably the Rembrandt painting would not be as valuable, but because the context is these are collections found in Dutch museums, and therefore they're viewing it as from that perspective. In Romania, for example, what they did was they came up with categorization of collections according to their importance in a geographic scale. So the concentric circles represent different geographic areas. No? So what is most important only to a local level, and then the county or regional level, and then national and international. So this is something that you might want to adopt. No, maybe international would not be applicable, but at least the national, regional, and local level. This is another example of how scales of value scales are made useful. In the Library of Congress, they've identified 5 categories from platinum, gold, silver, bronze, and copper. And if you read the fine print, which you can do later, these are different approaches to managing the environment in which these different groups, object groups, are kept in or exhibited in, and not every not every category are given the same level of care. So this is a way of actually creating a more efficient plan, especially if you have limited funding. No, so of course the Library of Congress, I'm sure, has a big budget, but even with that, perhaps with the amount of materials that they're managing, they're taking care of, they're caring for. It's important to adopt a system like this, no, that can help them decide which ones will give full total environment treatment, no, with a complete HVAC system, while others are not necessarily kept in that same condition. So if you look at the dots, you will see how each category is kept. The level of emergency preparedness or response that they're willing to give to these different object groups. Now, so we go to the main focus of the talk, this module, which is assessing significance, mainly because to be able to arrive at that level of categorization, it's important to understand how significant each object is or object groups are in your collection. So basically, significance refers to values and meanings that items and collections have for people and communities. Again, obviously this is very relative, but again, it's important to be transparent. Who gives the valuation? Who creates meanings? And more logically, in the case of a museum community, or rather a community museum, it's the immediate community that should have an input, no, in defining the significance. So significance may also be defined as the historic, artistic, scientific, and social or spiritual values that items and collections have for the past, the present, and the future. So I want to emphasize that this concept of significance assessment, what's also important and encouraged is to have a consultative process, bring in other entities, stakeholders in the process of understanding the values and meanings that we give to objects. The concept of sharing decisions, no? Sharing the decision-making process has been an important aspect of collections management. It's been promoted internationally for, I would say, the past 2 decades. So significance assessment is one example of operationalizing this concept of sharing decision-making in collections management. So these are basically the criteria that we look at. And if you notice, if you analyze what you have been doing with your collection, you're actually doing it already. But it's a matter of, I guess, in the end, creating a statement of significance. So how do we assess our collection? We look at the historic value, aesthetic value, if there is technical importance, scientific importance for research as a research material, and if applicable, if it's its spiritual and social values. Another set of criteria, which is identified as more comparative criteria, would be provenance. Provenance, of course, is like the history of the object, where it came from the time it was created until it reached your collection. So the different owners, maybe the different uses, if you're talking about the social history museum, the artifacts that you have, how representative is that object, that particular genre. If you're talking about ceramic works, contemporary ceramics, or a set of like religious prints or religious artifacts. So how representative is that of that particular genre or group of works? How rare is it? Of course, rarity sometimes is not necessarily a priority, no? But in some cases, of course, the concept of originality is very much related to authenticity. But these are just criteria that you can use if applicable, but sometimes it may not be applicable. Of course, the condition of the object, how complete is it? Will it require major conservation work? Do you have enough resources to do that? No? Even if you feel that a prospective donation would be important, can you afford it? So these are questions that you have to consider before acting on a donation or an acquisition. And then also quite important, and I would say in a museum, especially for a university museum, is what's the interpretive potential? How will it complement the existing collection? How will it enrich the collection and the programs? So the assessment process, now this is a very shortcut presentation on assessing significance assessment, but so I would encourage you to check on the details, no, a PDF file of Significance 2.0. This is the second edition already. Is actually available, and I have it. I will be sending it to the workshop organizers, and also you can download it through the link that I have in an earlier slide. So the assessment process involves 5 main steps. So basically analyzing an item or a collection, which is like cataloging the object. And then you do research on its history, provenance, and context. And then you compare it with similar items in your collection, or maybe from other collections. And then understanding the values in reference to that criteria or genre. And then you summarize all these meanings and values in a statement of significance. So it may sound, well, it may sound like you're it's a way of systematizing what we have been doing. I guess what's not often addressed would be the last 3 bullet points, because understandably museums would have generated a complete catalog of their collection, but looking at the connections that an object or a group of objects would have to different in different criteria, no. So it's a matter of just focusing or rather rationalizing the meanings and the values that we give to a particular object or set of objects. if you notice, I've been saying object or set of objects because you can do a significance assessment in different levels. You can do it for a single item or a group of items in a set of objects in your collection with a specific theme, for example, or a particular genre, or you can do a significance assessment for an entire collection. And then in a bigger scale, you can apply the same principle in collections mapping, which means which will include other collections, like a survey of, let's say, all art museums in Metro Manila. So if you look at how do you make sense of the collection of these different institutions. Excuse me. But for this particular case study, I will be focusing on a set of objects that were recently donated to Ateneo Art Gallery. This is very new, very fresh. The process, I think, would have started maybe 2 or 3 months ago. It started with an auction, an online auction that happened, which featured mostly prints, graphic works, and print paraphernalia. So one of our benefactors was contacted by the auction house, and the director of the auction house suggested that there is a set of etching plates that were attributed to Manuel Rodriguez Sr., who's considered as the father of Philippine printmaking. That's his picture on the top left. They had in possession several metal plates, etching plates, and which they divided into several lots of 3 or 4 plates in each lot. And when I was told about that, I checked out the website and saw very interesting. They were quite interesting, and then also thinking of what we already have in Ateneo Art Gallery. The images you see there, see in this slide, are the shows the actual condition when we got how we got the plates when we got them. Some still have grease covering the plate, mainly to protect it, and then some have a few corrosion. But generally, I was quite happy with what we ended up with. Of course, when our benefactor, our donor, Debitan, asked me which ones, I did have a list of like 6 lots, I think, and she was able to get 3 out of the 6, which I was already very happy with. No? Soon after we got the plates, or rather, actually even before the bidding started, it was an online bidding. I contacted Virgilio Aviado, whose photograph you see there. He's a printmaker, and asked if showed him the images of the plates which needed cleaning, and asked if he could clean it, and he said yes. And so that was a go signal for me to inform our donor. And then soon after we got the plates, I brought it to Pandy Aviado's studio, and 2 weeks later, he was able to clean them, and these are now the plates, and we have them now. And together with the cleaning, he made imprints just for our purposes. So these are not signed editions. These are imprints that were created, which we will not consider as part of the collection, but are supplementary materials that relate to these plates. No? So if you look at the images, the different plates, when we got them, the catalog had or had the type of metal was not accurate. So with the help of Pandi Aviado, we were able to identify. He identified for us the different the exact materials that were used for the in these different plates. And so as I said, initially in the auction catalog, the plates were attributed to Mang Maning Rodriguez. Upon cleaning, it was confirmed that out of the 12 plates that we were able to that we got, only 6 are by Mang Maning, and the rest are by students or young artists who worked in Mang Maning's workshop. So I'll speak more about that later. Okay, so among the 12, the ones with the red star are the works that are confirmed to be by Mang Maning Rodriguez. So what was the story behind this set of prints or etching plates rather? Virgilio Aviado confirmed that these came from Mang Maning's workshop, which was eventually bought by a gallery owner sometime in the 80s. No? So if we are to go through the process, let's go by the order of the process. So we analyzed the item or collection. These are metal etching plates. And as I said, it was confirmed that 8, the materials were confirmed. 8 are made out of zinc, 2 are copper, and 2 are in steel. And the set represents different variations of the intaglio process. Etching is an intaglio process. So if you look at if you analyze each the set of plates, they actually were done using different techniques in intaglio printmaking. And so we are still in the process of cataloging the details, including the current condition, which is almost good as new. Now, in looking at the history, provenance, and context, as I was saying, Pandi Aviado confirmed that the plates were part of Mang Maning's workshop, which was the contemporary graphic arts workshop located in San Andres, Manila, which he founded in the 1960s. So when the artist and his family decided to migrate to the US, he sold the workshop to a gallery owner, Mario Alcantara, owner of the Heritage Arts Center. And eventually, which included all the contents of the workshop, including the plates by Mang Maning and other printmakers who were working there, doing prints there. And as I said, among the 12, Pandi Aviado confirmed 6 are by Manuel Rodriguez and 6 by other artists who are yet to be determined. And then if we are to compare this group of objects, newly acquired etching plates, to similar items in the Ateneo Art Gallery collection, it's interesting to note, and we're very happy that this is of this turnout. One of the plates, Ateneo Art Gallery actually has a print which was editioned by Mang Maning himself, which is this print. And looking at the detail of the inscription, it was actually a gift from Virgilio Abiado to Ateneo Art Gallery. But it's a signed print. So we've had the print for quite some time now, and now we have the plate for this. And we have another work by Mang Maning. Sorry, the image is not too, it's quite dark, no? But this is a print that is of the same series as another one of the plates included in the set. So it's these are interesting connections. No? Now understand the value in reference to the criteria. So as I was saying, the artistic and historical value lies in the fact that its connection to Manuel Rodriguez, to printmaking in general, Philippine printmaking, the history of contemporary printmaking in the Philippines. We also see them as having instructional value to understand printmaking techniques. So if I am to write a statement of significance, and this would be a first draft, no? The recently acquired set of etching plates include representative works by Manuel Rodriguez Sr. from circa 1960s and by other artists who were exploring the art of printmaking. Altogether, these plates show a variety of intaglio techniques and processes, as well as different styles of figuration. This enriches the AHG collection of print paraphernalia and may be used as instructional materials for future workshops. So there. Yeah, I also included that aspect of how representative it is in terms of styles of figuration, because as you can see, the different the styles are quite varied. No? Even Mang Maning himself had different styles in representing the human figure, or using lines and then shading. So I thought that would be an important aspect if we are to look at a particular approach in visual language. If our focus is on developing visual literacy in terms of representation. So I hope this gave you a sense of what significance assessment is all about. It may not be an in-depth presentation, but it will require a lot of time, to understand, go through the whole process. But this is more of a shortcut. Perhaps as a parting note, I would suggest 2 activities that you can do with your colleagues within your respective institutions. So one is defining value categories. So I encourage you to sit with your team, your colleagues, and drop a list of objects or object groups that are often featured in your museum programs within a 1-year period, or maybe 2 years if you want, 2 years, a short term. And then that's when you will realize that there are works that you always have on exhibit, which already defines the value that you give to those objects. And some objects may probably be exhibited once in every 2 years or 3 years. So how important are they? Now, after doing that, try drawing up a scale of categories. You can come up with different categories. Could be different types of metal, or just A, B, C, D. Just try to come up with a scale of categories that reflects the values that's relevant to your collection. And note down the criteria, the specific criteria that you that applies for each category based on your assessment, your the first part of this activity. Another activity would be on creating a significance assessment. So identify a group, like an object or a group of objects, related objects from your collection, like what I did, and compile a catalog information and other supplemental materials, and then go through the process of significance assessment, the 4 steps first, and then draft a statement of significance, and then share with your colleagues and other stakeholders. And if I'm sure there will be some changes, some additional information. What I drafted earlier is actually not final, but it is a work in progress, mainly because these are newly acquired objects and we still need to do further research, and I look forward to getting more information about it. So I guess that's all for now. If you have any questions, I look forward to chatting with you after this presentation. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Boots, for that very informative talk. So we have some questions,
Thank you.
and we have questions from YouTube as well.
Mhm.
So let's begin with Renato Agdalpen. Okay, so he is asking, is there a suggested area or positioning of collection inside the museum relative to their significance or value?
He actually has
Positioning
sorry.
follow-up.
Meron siyang earlier question eh.
So
First is, would it be okay if we make general categorizations of collections, let's say pre-war collections? Well, yes, of course. That would actually be part of the design of the cataloging system. It's not even part of significance assessment. Depending on your collection, you can have different categories. Like in our case, what I showed you earlier is just one type of categorization in terms of form, but we also classify them according to period, according to theme, if it's figurative or abstract. So what the categorization should be identified by the entity, the unit that uses the collection, because it is a way of understanding how you can make sense, no? How you can use the collection. So that's really part of designing a cataloging system. It's part of documentation. So feel free. No? I'd like to share my experience with the UST Museum. For example, years ago in the early 2000s, I actually helped them catalog their fine art collection. If you're familiar with the UST Museum collection, they do have different areas, subject areas. They have natural history, ecclesiastical collection, and then of course the ethnographic, and then fine art collection. So I was focused on the fine art collection, and when I was designing this cataloging system, it was important for me to sit down with the director and ask him, how else do you want me to catalog your collection? And in terms of, we agreed to have a category based on theme. And because he felt that's an important way for them to use the collection, to make their collection more accessible. And even the themes, siya yung nag-define, no? Si Father Isidro Abanyo. He gave suggested category, parang themes, no? Kasi ako ang nilagay ko lang historical, let's say landscape, genre, but he wanted to be more specific when it came to religious works, which was understandable. So that consultation was very important. No, it really informed the final design of the cataloging system. So going to Renato's second question, no,
Positioning.
yes, positioning. It as I said, the significance assessment helps you understand why and how you are using your collection. If you feel that you have objects that should be highlighted, so that will affect how you present them. No, one case in point, in that course that I attended in Beijing, when we visited the Peking Museum, the University Museum, and that was where they had the remains of the Peking man, no, which at that time, I think, kasi may mga older na discoveries na, di ba? Pero at that time, I think it was one of the, it remains to be an important part of the university collection. It's a highlight. So for them, it was at the center of one of the gallery, no? So, and then it was in a room that contextualized that particular object. So I don't really know how to answer that question directly, but suffice it to say that just remember that when you design exhibitions, you are actually creating significance, defining the significance of objects. Okay.
Okay. Just a follow-up, Boots, related to that question from you. There's a question from YouTube. Does the value increase, or does the significance of objects increase when objects are exhibited more often, or do they lose their significance when they are not exhibited at all?
Well,
Follow.
I would say yes, no? Yes to both questions. Kaya nga but what I want to underscore is the fact that the value, how you see an object, how you value, and I also want to parang clarify, I'm not talking about monetary value, yung importance, no? Okay, so oo, bukas pa yun eh. So when the concept of the value of that you give to an object can change depending on who is creating the context, no? I did mention earlier in the talk na ano siya it has a context. It can change from generation to generation. So you can actually enhance the value of an object that has not been shown, no? But you have to be careful how you do that, because that should be presented in a specific context. It's just it's not just about bringing it out for exhibition. You have to create a context to it, no? So exhibition, curating an exhibit is a way of contextualizing and then creating values to objects that we exhibit.
Yeah.
So
right. From Maria Rose Halin Manalo. Is there an institution that places value on an item, like a group of experts on the different art forms like old clothes, textile, accessories, painting?
I think the question uses value in terms of
monetary,
parang appraisal, no? So this is not part of my but I would suggest, if I am to answer this question in the context of my presentation, if you have a set of clothes, textile, accessories. If you want to understand the importance, kung may meaning yung objects na yon, it would be good to bring in the community. For example, if you have access to who originally owned it, kasi that will create stories for that object. So they're not just old clothes. They were clothes worn by someone who was an important figure in your community. So nagkakaroon ng value. So it goes back to the parang what is emphasized now in collections management, in the conservation field, of sharing that process, bringing in members of the community who may actually know more about these objects, and they create stories. No? Kaya yung intangible part of the collection are actually the stories about the objects.
Okay. I think Museo Kordilyera has done that part
Yes.
connecting with the communities to co-curate and then sharing their stories about objects that we don't know. So
yeah, I think your advantage is also because much of your collection and programming, no, are based on research,
yes.
Field research, no. So that already enhances, no, the significance, kasi there's that direct connection with the community. And also I want to bring this, parang present this idea na when you talk about collections and objects, they're not necessarily, you don't have to own them permanently. You can actually borrow them, but still have it as part of your parang not really inventory, but list of materials that you can borrow again. No? So yung transfer of ownership is not always practical, especially for community-based museums. It's important also to have your community be part of taking care of the objects, no? Tapos na nakikita nila na hinihiram nyo, tapos nilalagay nyo sa isang exhibit, I'm sure tuwang-tuwa sila, no? So you are already enhancing the significance of those objects.
Okay, thank you, Boots. So from Alex de los Santos, can you elaborate further on the local, regional, national, international model of valuation? And he has other questions.
Yeah, so well, that example, in the case of the Netherlands, for example, that required a long process of consultation. There was a long consultative process. As you can see, it took them several years, no? Pero I think basically yung idea niyan is you ask the question, is this object significant to our community? Yes. Is it significant to the region? Pwedeng yes. Pero nationally ba importante siya? Pwedeng hindi. Diba?
Hindi.
Oo. So, again, I go back to the Peking Man remains. No? That has been identified as internationally significant because it established a particular parang date, no, to the ano nga ba yon, yung sa development, no, ng Homo sapiens, no. So may international significance siya, hindi lang siya national or regional. So I would answer that question again by saying that you have to understand the relevance of your collection, no. But it doesn't mean na kung hindi nationally significant, baliwala yung museum nyo. No, it's not. No? importante yan because it has meaning to your community. No? Whether it's just a university community, or the Baguio, for example. No? Parameters to classify collection as local. Yun na nga, yung parameters actually kayo ang magde-define yan eh. Kaya hindi ako makapagbigay ng because it's always a case-to-case basis. And the nice thing about this significance assessment is it's the museum that creates, goes through the process together with the community, the constituents. If there are any, like in our case, yung case study ko, si Pandy Aviado informed, gave more some information that made that set of etching plates more significant than I had originally thought. And even if 6 of them are not by Mang Maning, I will not say no, they're not significant anymore, but because it has that history.
Right.
Let me just go continue with that question. For example, we have in our present museum an old typewriter used in school when it was a trade school. Is it local? Yes. That's actually very important, lalo na kung yung history, if your museum is about the history of your school. So, significant yun. Pero pag nilabas mo yan, it could be another typewriter. Although I'd be interested to use a typewriter again. Okay.
Right. Will follow up, Boots, will a cultural mapping method help identify whether an artifact is local? Or...
Yes. Actually, yung significance assessment complements it. It could be part of cultural mapping. Cultural mapping has a bigger scope, diba? Oo. Scope. Pero kasi when you do cultural mapping, before you do cultural mapping, parang may mga significance assessment, magandang may significance assessment ng nagawa for every collection or museum.
Okay, from Florita Garcia, who should prepare the collection development policy of the museum? Is it the curator or the administrator?
When you say collection development, that's how collections management, policy.
Collections management.
Well, initially, the curator would parang initiate the process. But again, it's like significance assessment. It has to go through a consultative process. No, it's important to bring in the team, to be part para naiintindihan din nila bakit ba itong ina-acquire, ito hindi. No, so it usually begins starts with the curator, the director. Yung administrator, I'm not sure what she meant by administrator. It's would that be yung
members of the university or
yung
members of the university or the director or
the board members,
university board?
Eventually the board members will have to parang approve that policy, no? Pero yung pag-develop muna, pag-draft, yung initial draft always begins from the curatorial team. No?
Okay. So next, anonymous attendee. Will the value of the artifact be affected if it is a cursed object? Oh, interesting. Sample. Object who handled it may have a misfortune afterwards. Will the museum still accept the cursed object?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah,
actually, kami sa CCP may isang work na parang some of the staff in the museum think it's not parang mala siya, no? So I had to to tell them parang that's not the way parang you shouldn't look at objects that way, no? Pero of course, iba yung kwan. But going back to the question, kasi yung pagiging cursed is relative, no? So, ano ba yung ibig niyong sabihin na curse, no? Misfortune, the object to handle it or have misfortune afterwards. Hindi ko masagot to kasi baka mamaya pag sinabi ko tapos masisi ako, no? Pero this is actually a way of giving significance.
Yeah.
No? Pero medyo reverse yung ano na yung bottom line is everyone should accept. I mean should agree to that assessment, no? It should not be forced to the museum. I guess that's one way of answering it. If kasi minsan yung mind over matter, di ba? Kahit na sabihin mo, o sige, tatanggapin na namin, pero at the back of their minds. So, hindi mo maano no? Yeah, medyo mahirap tong. This is also actually applicable to museums na are also influenced by concepts like feng shui, no? Pero kasi nga yung idea na dapat you agreed to that decision. I mean, that was a collaborative decision. Hindi lang isang tao ang gumawa ng decision na yun.
Let me just share doon sa Museo Kordilyera kasi some artifacts, no, we have a lot of bulul or mga artifacts that are used for sorcery. But when we receive these items, we ask them if they underwent desacralization ritual.
Okay, yeah.
So as to, it doesn't.
I think that's a good step, no? Kasi even yung process ng desacralization it involves the community, di ba? Hindi lang kayo ang hindi kayo ang nag-i-impose nun kasi alam nila na parang tanggap nila na may ganung process, which is actually good. It could be part of your collections development policy. Na kung may mga ganung objects, and I think it has been, no? Maybe not in writing, but in practice. So.
Yeah. Okay, next, anonymous attendee. In your experience, what is the most challenging part of categorization or significance assessing?
Well, in with Ateneo Art Gallery kasi parang I think I'm quite fortunate na when I came in, klaro na yung direction nung collection. And if we in expanding the scope, we always look back to what was the core and what is already existing. So, having said that, I guess yung part ng siguro sa when you talk about fine art collections, I'm not saying I experienced this, no, but I would say yung concept of authenticity is a delicate can sometimes be delicate, no. I think even for ethnographic collections, no. So kasi pag gumawa kayo ng statement of significance, you're implying na siya authentic. Unless sasabihin nyo, hindi siya authentic, pero significant din kasi meron siyang study value, educational value. Ganun. Ang importante din, you're transparent, no, about how you value objects in your collection. I hope I answered the
I think the replicas also have issues of authenticity. For
That's
instance,
true.
The German museums collected artifacts that were commissioned, but were not used for ritual. So they collected all of this and copied these artifacts. So fast forwarding 100 years ago, this now becomes relevant collections, even if they did not underwent rituals.
Kasi pero iniintindi mo yung history niya, di ba?
Yeah.
bakit sila nagpagaya? No, why yung colonial parang process of collecting, no, the context, the colonial context of collecting is also parang a historical context, no, that is good to understand, no, and explore in exhibitions.
Okay, next,
How to approach
managing and categorizing an existing collection in a
in a lifestyle museum. Yeah, I haven't really much experience with lifestyle when you say lifestyle, ito yung parang, let's say, turn of the century, no? I think dito, you can actually, sorry, is this, nasa na yung question na yun? Nawala na. Yung lifestyle collection, the question is, how do you categorize?
Yeah, categorize.
Okay. So again, I go back to yung first question kanina na that's part of designing a cataloging system. It's not really focused on significance assessment pa. You can actually categorize them according to material, kasi that's important, no? When you talk about conservation concerns, you can categorize them also according to use, function. No, like for example, are these for the kitchen? Are these for the bedroom? Yung personal, ano, ganun. I'm not too familiar with the scope kasi, pero ang importante, even the process of creating categories, actually that's a learning process for us. Minsan kasi I've come across situations wherein maglalagay ako ng category na hindi naman pala relevant. No, so you can actually change or revise, make revisions dun sa categories as you go along, kasi that helps tighten, no, your cataloging system. So I cannot answer that by defining specific categories, but it's more of the approach. It always goes back to understanding how objects were used in the case of a lifestyle collection, and how you plan to use them or present them.
Okay. Next question on, are cultural items and memorabilia collections considered as part of the museum?
Yes, of course. What do you mean by cultural items? No, merong museums na memorabilia is an important part of the collection. I would cite the Vargas Museum. It's not just an art collection. It has a collection of Jorge Vargas's memorabilia, which is actually very important and very interesting. They also have a Filipiniana collection, yung library niya, no? yung papers niya when he served the government. No? So yes, these can be important parts of a museum collection.
Okay, so next question from Alex de los Santos. Where do you put the significance? Should it be part of the catalog card or just for the use of curation?
I would put them sa catalog record, and then you can actually refer to them when you want to know more. No, just to give you an example, kasi I also teach, no, here in Ateneo, and for many years now, I've been one of the courses that I teach is collections management. It's an introductory course. So what I asked my students, one of the exercises or requirements I give to my students is, I asked them to choose one artist that's represented in the collection, And then with that artist, titignan nila kung ano yung mga works na nasa collection. And then they write a brief biography, an artistic, parang a text that gives an overview of the artistic development, and then a statement of significance of the works that are in the collection. So I've had that, and now actually we're using them. No, so that's one way. You don't have to exhibit them, but these are references, no, materials, and it will be part of your archives also.
Okay. From Mild Hombre Bueno, all items in our university museum were donated or even a project required by teachers way back then in 1980s. So the problem of the museum in charge is there are no documents of the information details of these items, etc. So the question is, what is the best strategy to do the labeling, valuation, and then cultural mapping as well?
I think ang more of cataloging pa rin to eh. No? Hindi pa cultural. Kasi cultural mapping, ang understanding ko kasi more macro. No? Yes, this is actually an issue. It can be an issue, especially because you don't have any information. No? I want to know actually what kind of museum eh. Kasi donated or even a project required by teachers.
I've seen the museum booths. This is in Nueva Vizcaya. Yes, so these are a collection of ethnographic artifacts, utilitarian objects, agricultural implements.
Pero bakit project required by teachers? I thought were they created by students or they were gathered?
Gathered by students.
Okay. Sige.
Well,
ang isang nito, solution is, again, go back to the community. Ask probably yung mga farmers, no? Na, lalo na yung mga hindi na masyadong nakakatrabaho sa fields. Imbitahin nyo sila, tapos tanong nyo kung meron silang, anong masasabi nila, no? Dun sa ano. Kasi pwedeng hindi mo na makuha yung origin, no? Pero yung gamit or other related stories. So that would inform the text that you will include in any exhibition label, or even actually yung content ng exhibition.
Can you follow up on that? Can you actually bring the artifacts outside of the museum for object elicitation?
Yes, as long as
there's photo elicitation.
So I think as long as you have the proper procedures, no, na kung mahihirapan yung community na pumunta sa'yo, as long as you assume responsibility for it, no, I don't see that. I don't think that would be a problem, no. Basta meron ngang proper protocols when you bring it out, and then when you should bring it back, it's recorded when it's brought out, recorded when it's brought in, and then yung condition, of course, kailangang i-check yun. Kasi ngayon pwede rin nga una photographs muna, and then kung gusto nilang makita yung actual work, pwede, that's when you bring it out.
Thank you. There's another question here. How do you account collections categorized as prints, narratives, and archive photos printed on vinyl and mounted on walls in terms of inventory and collections management?
What do you mean by narratives or archive photos printed on vinyl? These are reproductions.
Yeah, reproductions.
Oo.
Archival photographs.
Well, I think decision nyo na yun kung i-classify nyo siya as part of the collection or as supplementary materials. Kasi nga reproduction to eh. If your museum or your collection, how do you say that? Kung part yun nung ano nyo, nung scope ng collection, yes, you can classify them, no? Pero kasi ito parang ang pagkaintindi ko reproductions na let's say ginamit sa isang museum exhibit, no? I think I would consider them ephemera, no? Kasi ganito eh, if you consider them all of these as archival, magkakaproblema kayo sa ano eh, sa storage, no? So you have to be careful what you include. You can't include everything. That's the whole point of collections management. No, you sometimes have to let go. Kasi ito, kung photos printed on vinyl or on walls as supplementary materials for exhibition, hindi naman yun yung authentic na work eh. 'Di ba? You may have the actual print. Yun yung authentic. No? So, oo, ang sagot ko dyan would be if they are exhibition paraphernalia, I suggest you think you consider yung long-term implications if you want to keep them. Long-term implications, particularly sa resources nyo, sa storage space, etc.
Okay. Interesting question from Bayani Ambion.
Ano to? Teka muna.
About mommies. So, regarding cursed or not objects. So, a Kordilyera antique agent once brought down to Manila a mummified remains to an antique dealer friend. Soon after buying the mummy, weird things started happening where the mummy was kept. Sounds now being heard, things moved from one location to another. Antique dealer ended up returning the mummy to the Kordilyera antique agent, and ceremony was held in Manila. Okay, and then weird occurrences stopped. What's the ethical thing to do in dealing with mummies?
Actually covered to ng ICOM Code of Ethics.
Yeah.
The recent, I think since 2000, yung version ng 2003 onwards, already parang anong tawag doon, pinagbabawalan na yung pag-collect ng human remains, no? So and like for example, I know sa National Museum, di ba, years ago in the 90s, they returned one of the mummies sa dun sa Sagada Cave. So ang answer dito is the ICOM Code of Ethics. So it's really not ethical to the fact na this dealer got hold of mummified remains. Ang tanong mo, paano niya ginawa yun? How was he or she allowed to do that? So if you come across that, I suggest you, I'm not sure about if you can report to an institution, maybe the community, no? But siguro, wag niyong don't think twice about acquiring it, because it's frowned upon already by the community of museum professionals.
Okay. Thank you. Next question. Does politics or issues between the donor and the institution affects the process of significance assessment? How can we avoid such dilemma? And
I'm not sure what you mean by politics. Kasi kami, yung mga donors namin, mababait. Sorry. We've been very fortunate. At saka yung yung ano, yung paano ba? Parang mas tinitignan nila yung kung ano ang makaka-strengthen sa collection, not because they want their name in
Yeah.
our roster of donors, no? So, but I think right now there are also issues when you talk about not necessarily donation of objects for the collection, but also donation of funds, no? Which I think has been a sensitive issue. So, does it affect the process of significance assessment?
And how
To
to
some
avoid.
extent, yes, because it is part of the provenance,
Mm-mm.
diba? So, um, what do you mean by how do we avoid? Kasi kung if you think that the object has a strong place, no, is a strong addition to your collection. Depende rin kasi kung ano yung political issues na yun, no? I would weigh it on a case-to-case basis. I cannot give parang a definitive, a general answer to this.
Yeah. Okay, next
Maybe,
question.
sorry, ang nakalagay, ang last question kasi how can we avoid such dilemma? I guess yung bottom line is you have to protect the interest of the museum. No? We've had a few cases in the past when a collector would like to donate everything from his collection. So, ang ano namin, ang first response was we need to see first the collection, and we need to assess which ones would go well with ours, no? With the existing permanent collection. Kasi yung blanket na ano, yung ganong terms from a donor will not be beneficial to a museum in the long run. No?
Yeah.
So yun, yeah, I think yun ang pinaka-importante. You have to protect your institution in terms of ano yung effect niya long term sa resources ninyo. Do you have enough space for it? No? Can you use it? Yun, yung mga ganong basic questions.
Okay, next question. What is
Okay,
the
what is
difference between a gallery and a museum in terms
okay?
of
Yes, in terms of function and how does this affect the collecting procedure? First of all, the Ateneo Art Gallery is a university art museum. So I always make this clarification even to my students. The way we use gallery is how, in the European context, a gallery, a fine art museum is referred to as a gallery. And then yung social history, natural history entities are referred to as museums. So parang natural history museum, pero merong National Art Gallery. No? But if you are another context of using galleries, of course, the commercial. But we are not a commercial entity. Yung commercial galleries, yung nagtitinda, no, ng art. So hindi kami, we don't sell our collection kasi otherwise walang magdo-donate sa amin. So di ba, ganun din kayo. Kasi kung meron kayong record na nagbebenta kayo ang isang museum nagbebenta ng collection, that will make your donors, your prospective donors, think twice. Kasi syempre ang gusto nila ibigay yung pinakamamahal nilang object sa isang institution na mag-aalaga and permanent, diba? Kaya nga yung idea na permanent dapat ang isang museum kasi may implications yon how donors will willingly, no, can will support you. Okay, I hope I answered the question.
Okay. Another question from Nathaniel Joel Daroy. Would reproductions or reprints be of the same value as the original objects?
In our case, because it's our focus is fine print, no? So reproductions and well, well reproductions definitely hindi siya kasi parang sinasabi mo offset prints yan, di ba? Like yung nasa kalendaryo o nasa greeting card, no? Yung reprints, depende. Like merong estate ng artists that issue reprints, pero limited edition. So, may mga ganung nuances, no? So, depende nga. Pero if you say reproduction, yeah, it would not have a value, at least in the context of our collection of fine prints. Or this would also be relative depending on, yeah, as I said, it would depend on the context.
So, follow up pa siya.
Would it be a representational value for reproductions? I guess if that's the focus of your museum, kasi it always goes back to yung mission, yung ano ba, what is the significance of your museum, your collection, no?
Okay. Question for you. Is the collections management class you offer in Ateneo for undergrads only?
Yes, it's an undergrad class, part of the art management program. In fact, I'm starting my class tomorrow because we're doing it quarterly this time online. So yes, I think I remember I had one or two students who enrolled pero hindi taga Ateneo, but of course you have to pay the fees. Yeah. So I'm not sure, you can check the website of Ateneo or maybe the Fine Arts Department if you are interested.
Okay, from Jimbo Fatala. Question. In a fine arts museum, could you give an instance wherein the community is specifically engaged in assessing or determining the significance of an artwork or an artifact?
It is often in the case of, yeah. That's understandable, and that's a good question. Thank you for asking this. Kasi yung community can be a community of artists, not necessarily yung public. Pero in our case, we can actually parang involve the university community, no? For some, and we actually plan to do that while we're on lockdown. So asking members of the community ano yung paborito nilang work sa collection. Kasi parang, di ba, it's also connecting with the university community. So when I say community, it doesn't have to be the community where you live in, no? But also the community of practitioners.
Okay, thank you. Another question. If the university will initiate a museum, can the registered librarian work as a curator?
Ikaw, Ikin.
I think I cringe when they call me as curator because being a curator, it takes a lot of understanding about the whole process of curation. But for the case of the librarian, maybe no, unless there's strong interest to that discipline.
Yeah, I think, well, for any person, kasi like in our case, yung generation namin, basically, ano din merong mga nag-aral, no? Pero majority, on the job training. So, I think I would answer this by saying, merong skills and mindset yung librarian that can benefit curatorial work.
Yeah.
An archivist, kasi that's different from a librarian, di ba? That's my understanding. Mas actually yung skills and training ng archivist is closer to a curator. So yeah, that's how I would answer this.
Okay, from Raquel Tisha Palaganas. How do you deal with random people messaging the museum with pictures of their objects, asking about their worth? No, sa Museo Kordilyera, we also experienced that one.
Oo.
So what do you think of
As far when it comes to ito, yung request for authentication, for valuation, we also receive that once in a while. And my answer again is always to go back to the ICOM Code of Ethics. It's not ethical for museums to give valuation or appraise objects kasi may conflicts of interest dyan. Yan. So, yun ang sabihin nyo. Hindi ethical. No? I would suggest maybe we should give the participants a copy of the ICOM Code of Ethics. No, I think yung pinaka-recent is still 2013. I'm not sure if there's an updated version.
Okay, from Vesper Sheras, what is the ideal arrangements or presentations of these objects? It's about displaying of
Yeah.
objects. No?
So should very important pieces be the first on display? Yung scales na or parang category, value categories that I presented earlier, they are not necessarily for exhibition purposes. Kasi your exhibit should be defined by the concept. What is the objective? What is the exhibit about? It's not about presenting what is important. Diba? Minsan may narrative ka. Meron kang concept na gustong ipalabas tulad ng Feasts of Merit, diba? Na exhibit, no? So I'm surprised na yung sa parang nakapeg yung ilang questions sa exhibitions. I think when you approach exhibitions, you look at how an object will contribute to your narrative, not because they are valuable. No? Kasi minsan, that can go against your objective. May ilalagay ka na napaka yung parang eye-catching and it can take the attention away from the whole exhibition. It can be too overwhelming. No? So it's you need to balance that. So yeah. Tsaka kasi kung magaling yung pagka-curate, makikita nung viewers yung significance, whether they're important to you or not. Significance in that context. Kaya nga, when you exhibit objects, you're actually adding to the significance or creating new meanings.
Right. Okay, I think we're down to the last question. If an object to be donated does not quite fit to the theme of the museum, should we still accept it or not?
Of course not. No. So, you don't... kaya tayo merong, di ba, yung mission, objectives ng museum, what is your museum all about? What do you want to do, no? So kung hindi siya tugma dun sa theme or concept ng museum nyo, there is no point in even considering whether you should accept it or not. No? I actually came across a similar parang case. Merong isang donor na may gustong i-donate sa amin na napakalaking painting, but the artist is not really does not fit the collection. And this is a very respected artist. But when I told them it doesn't really go well with the collection, and because it's quite big, it will take up a a lot of space, not just in the gallery, but also in storage, kung nakastore siya. So, ang ginawa ko, nirecommend ko sa another museum na mas magagamit, that will have a better significance, more significance. So, that's how museums also parang help other institutions. We collaborate, no? Kung if you come across an object na hindi bagay sa inyo pero babagay sa another museum, i-recommend nyo doon, no? Para kasi mas magkakaroon ng importance yung object na yun doon.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So I think we're good.
Very productive discussion.
Thank you too for the invitation.
Do you have last words for our HEI participants from YouTube? They're watching Zoom and at our VLE. That's the university platform of Baguio.
Okay. So
virtual learning environment.
Yes, thank you for sitting through this 2-hour session. I hope somehow you got some ideas and principles when you talk about significance assessment. This is only a portion of how to manage collections. No? So I think I'm sure there are other modules, no, that will relate to collections management. But itong significance assessment, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we are actually doing it. Hindi lang natin na sinusulat, no? And it's important actually to record and document these ideas, how you see an object, how you would treat the values that you give to an object for posterity, for future generations. Because we won't stay forever in our respective institutions. So this is one reason why we should document, these ideas. And with that, I hope I hope you get more information on the succeeding modules, no? And congratulations to UP Baguio, si Chansey, and also to Ched, no, for doing this. And we look forward to more of such training programs. So thank you to everyone. I see attendees from different parts of the country. I have been saying lately that this is one advantage that the lockdown has given us. No, we are able to reach out to more audiences. So, yeah, thank you, and thank you for attending. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Boots, and we'll see you at level 2. All right, so thank you everybody for participating in our online webinar today. For tomorrow, we will have Professor Dianne Corpuz. So she's going to talk about the monetary value of artifacts. No? So this is about the valuation of museum artifacts. So thank you and stay tuned and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.